Hello and welcome to another Tinto Maps video. Apologies for it being one day late. I was a little bit busy yesterday and couldn't get around to doing this awesome map of, Iraq and Iran, Persia, the Caucasus, and all of that. And so apologies that it's a day late, but hopefully it is not a dollar short. I've never understood that phrase, but whatever. We'll get into it right now. Welcome to more Tinto Maps. Today we'll be looking at Persia and the Caucasus, the regions that encompass several modern-day countries and regions. Iraq, Iran, Balochistan, Afghanistan, Transoxiana, etc. But for the sake of simplicity, we'll name it Persia and the Caucasus. Makes sense. Fair enough. So, for countries, we have this lovely map. And while this one looks nice, of course, I still prefer coloring in the wastelands, and then we get this. I think this looks really good. Other than, I have one issue. And that is, it's kind of like colorless. Like every single one of these countries, maybe with the exception of Khorshidi, is so like washed out coloring, right? I feel like there needs to be some more richness, and I think more rich colors would really suit the region a little bit more. I mean, this is the area that is famous for its like very colorful silks, so I don't know. I feel like just a little bit more stronger colors would suit a lot better, in my opinion. But you know what? Hey, call to action. If you agree with me, let me know in the comment section below. If you disagree with me and you like the colors, let me know in the comment section below. Boom, done, nailed it. Let's move on. The region is quite interesting in 1337, as there's plenty of countries to play with. The Ilkhanate is still alive, but in name only, the real power being hosted by the Gelairids, who are the overlords of some of their neighbours, like the Chobanids and the Eretinids. Other countries, such as Ggen, the Kartids, and the Muzaffarids, are also struggling to get the hegemony over the region. Meanwhile, the strongest power in the Caucasus is the Kingdom of Georgia, although the region is also quite fragmented among different polities. As you'll notice when we had this zoomed in, we can maybe do that again, the Ilkhanate is not a tag. They are not a tag, you cannot find them here. And that is because we have ourselves an international organization. Love that, love that. This is a really cool system. The international organization system that can model so many different things, and I think for one it is great to see it used as much as possible. So you may have wondered why it isn't a unified tag. Well, it's because they consider that it's clearly in decadence, having lost any grasp of authority over the provinces, so the best way of portraying it is through an international organization. What we can see in this map mode is that there are two pretenders to get the power, the Gelairids and Ggen, with the other countries still being formally a part of it. They won't talk more today about how it works and its features, but there are two clear fates for the Ilkhanate: being dissolved as historically happened, or being restored in full power as a unified country. I love this. I think this is fantastic. This is a bit similar to, well, I say a bit similar, but it's a bit of a stretch. It's like having another HRE, right? You have your HRE in Germany, and if you play as the Emperor, then generally your goal is going to be to unify it, and you've got your own mechanics. You've got the HRE mechanics. Well, over here we have the goal of forming the Ilkhanate, and you have to do it through the Ilkhanate IO system. I mean, we already know the HRE is controlled by an IO system as well, so it's even closer. And yeah, I think that's really, really cool, and it makes me think, what are the mechanics, obviously, that are a part of this? Because if you look, not everyone that you might expect to be in, like the Sutiids, they are the overlord of the Bengal Zraki, can't pronounce that or read it, but they are the overlord of these, but their vassals are not in this IO. So does that mean that there are no subjects? Are subjects not allowed in it? But then, you see the Gilarids, they're the overlord of the Chupinids and the Erytinids. They're in it. But is that because they are one of the, let's say, pretenders to the Ilkhanate throne? What I will say is the Sutiids, having been split up, that was a very recent development. So it could be that they just haven't been added, and this might be a mistake, and they will be, potentially. And also, what are the mechanics revolving around the interactions between the various powers within it? We had seen for a long time that the Ayabids were in a very rough position, being sandwiched between people that are much, much stronger than them, but they have a really cool and historic surname, so people might want to play as them anyway. Is there being a part of the Ilkhanate IO? Is that going to give them some avenues, maybe to expand diplomatically? And who knows? Not me, but I'm speculating, and, that's fine. As for dynasties, let us have a look here. Not much to say about the dynasties. They're akin to the country names in most cases. You might wonder which is the yellow one, which is, Ggen here is part of the yellow dynasty, which is the same as what the Golden Horde has. Well, you might wonder which one that is. Rolling over Ggen, the country is led by Ggen, the heirs of Genghis Khan. Now you get the full picture of their rule over the Ilkhanate being challenged by the Gilarids, I think. So, that's going to be a very interesting game then, isn't it? That's going to be a very interesting playthrough. I just mentioned how the Ayabids are going to be I imagine, a fan favorite. As they are a tiny nation surrounded by much bigger nations with a cool surname. This is going to be the same situation, right? People are going to want to play the Ggen because they are the heirs to Genghis Khan. They are the Ggen dynasty. People are going to want to play that in order to reassert Mongol rule over Persia, and I think that's going to be a very interesting playthrough, a very rewarding playthrough if you manage it. So, definitely going to be expecting to see a lot of Ggen campaigns in this game. Moving on to locations, and as you expect, there is just a ton of density. We love that. The mountains and deserts of Persia. I think this has got to be, like, when it's this large, it's got to be a desert, right? Very nicely shown off, especially seeing this in EU4. This area here was also very much. Let me just open it in a new tab so it's easier to see. The area down here was very much a choke point in EU4, and it still is today, right? So I am in favor of that. Let me just move it over so I can zoom in and show it off at the same time. It was very much a choke point, right? And it still is. So there's one location here, one location here. You can basically hold off a Persian invasion into India or vice versa right here, which is something I want. I want that to be a thing. I like choke points. The mountains up in the north as well. I like this. I think that is going to be great for gameplay. But at the same time, it's not completely cope, right? This area to the south of the desert that I forget the name of, the one that Alexander the Great crossed, whatever. I can't remember the name of it, but whatever. This, while we had the choke points in EU4, the entire desert all the way up to Hormuz was like a one province corridor, which was kind of boring, and now there's so much more there, which is obviously a great improvement indeed. But yeah, the locations there are looking great. More locations up in Georgia, and especially looking at those Caucasus Mountains. We have the passes through the center of it now. Especially here, looks crazy to try and invade through. And it's going to be interesting to see if this also gets snow in the winter. I imagine it does. I'm pretty sure it does in real life as well. But, being able to hold off an invasion because it snowed in the mountains is something we know is going to be a thing. So, Loving that indeed. Um, then more location density here. Um, Obviously, you can't really see much about the rivers. The locations aren't really following the Tigris River here, but still, I think the density of other places is a bit higher than in Mesopotamia, which does surprise me a little bit. I thought density of Mesopotamia was going to be at least as high as Georgia. It just kind of doesn't seem to be the case, which is certainly interesting. Maybe that will be updated in review and we'll get a little bit more there. Maybe I'm just imperative pilled. I don't know. That's also possible. And then of Persia itself, looking very nice and dense. Everyone loved that. And then yes, a little bit more further to the north. And looking at the Caspian here as well is it's nice to see it with so much water in it. Not exactly the same case today, is it? Province-wise, as you'd expect, looking still pretty nice. The super large provinces are that way because apparently wastelands count and they go into provinces as well. But in that, seems pretty normal. And then with areas as well, yeah, that's looking awesome. Terrain-wise, lots of arid. Cold, arid, some Mediterranean down here. This is obviously the mountain range in the cold, arid, so it looks like that will be getting a lot of snowfall, I would imagine. I'm not sure if arid gets snow, but I mean, this is Mesopotamia, there's no mountains there anyway. But yeah, lots of Persian mountains here might not get snow. And then we've got the inland sea, which it looks like it will be traversable by your boats. Lots of plateaus, mountains, the mountain range over the Caucasus as well, looking very nice. And then on to vegetation, not a whole lot. Basically, the entirety of Persia is desert. Desert mountain, desert plateau. The bits of greenery they have is a bit sparse. A little bit of forest and woods around, but really not a lot at all. And there we go. Harbors. And yes, you can see instantly the Caspian Sea having harbors means it will be traversable by your boats. I might notice that the ports in the Caspian Sea because it is considered a sea near game, so there can be ships and navies over it. That's really cool. I like that. I like that they've done that. I think we're also going to be getting the same treatment for the Great Lakes in America. If I remember rightly, and I can check this actually, in the second ever Tinto talk on the map, if we zoomed into this, I'm pretty sure we ended up seeing that obviously there were the sea zones here in the Caspian Sea, but we also saw that in the Great Lakes very, very slightly. It is there, so we probably will be also getting traversable Great Lakes. And apologies for the quality of the image. I'm just zooming in way more than it was meant to be. But anyway, moving back over here. Looking at cultures, and yeah, this is another one that is incredibly interesting. Lots of minorities, and you can see the effects of the Anatolia rework here going on. But then, obviously, in the Caucasus region, you've got Georgians, Ataris, Azeris. The Kurds are here, Adaris, Mazandaranis. There is a lot, Iraqis, Lur, and then just a huge amount of Persians. There we've got some Bloc, Afghans, Tajiks, Khorasanis, loving the huge amount of cultural diversity there. There's quite a lot of cultural division throughout the region. The Caucasus as well. The Caucasus divided among lots of different people. Then we have the Iraqi and Kurdish in Iraq, Persian, and a number of other cultures in Iran, Baloch in Balochistan, Afghan in Afghanistan, Khorasani, Turkmen, Khwarezmians, Hazaras, and Tajiks, among others, in Khorasan and Transoxania. Very cool. I like how much they've gone into this. As for religions, we get a lot going on. Orthodox, Miaphysites, Nestorians, Sunni and Shiite. And I'm not sure what the blue is. What would be the underlying blue? That can't... Is that... I don't know, wait, there it is. You can see it. It's Tengri, of course. This area was owned by the Mongols for quite a while. Tengri being there makes a lot of sense. And they have one location of majority as well. Okay, let's see what they have to say about it. Other interesting religious situation. Orthodox is the main religion in Georgia and Miaphysitism in Armenia, while other confessions spread here and there throughout the Caucasus region. Kabzaism and 3 pagan confessions, Karaki Balkar, Vainak, and Lezgin. Then Iraq is divided among Sunni to the north, Shiitism in the south, and Iran is in an interesting situation, having a Sunni majority, but with some important Shiite pockets here and there, and Zoroastrianism, of course. It was not trivial to properly portray them, as we don't have good data for the 14th century. So what we did was some calculations between sources that tell us that there's still a majority as late as the 11th century, and the religion becoming severely reduced by the 16th century. Therefore, they decided to go with 20% of the population as a general rule of thumb. However, we're quite open to feedback over this matter. Fair enough. They didn't mention Tengri here at all, and there's a ton of Tengri. Though I am curious where the Zoroastrianism that they mentioned is. What color would that be? Because I don't think it's this blue, because we can see that that is Tengri right here. Could that... I mean, Nestorian is this pink. I think it's here. This is like a purple color that we don't see anywhere else. It's different from this blue. So maybe this here is a Zoroastrian minority, I would imagine. And then if we go to the countries, that's kind of split between the Chopinids and the Jalairids. I don't think Corsidi... Yeah, Corsidi doesn't have it. That's here. Okay. Going on to raw materials, and as you know from EU4, this place is so incredibly rich with resources. Full of rich resources in stark contrast to the one we showed last week, Arabia. A couple of bugs in the map mode that you might be able to spot. I'm not going to be able to spot them, but let's have a look at what we got. And the thing that is jumping out immediately is silk, 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 silk. We have not seen much silk anywhere else, but we're getting so much of it here. There is a ton of it. Getting dyes down here in Persia as well. Found my medicaments. We're all happy now. What else have we got going on? Stone, tin, bit of wheat, some spices as well. Do we see much more spices other than these? There's a few. We've got some rice going on as well. Fruit. Again, as I've said before, we get a much better picture of what goods are where after playing for a while. Just looking at this is, again, it's not something that is going to stick in our minds other than, you know, there's a lot of silk here. But other than that, I think it is going to take a little bit of a few games to really understand what resource-rich regions are. Especially if we get a UI that we'll be able to see, you know, population of silk in my country, you know, as in this is a silk province and it has this much population. If you can add all of that up, you know, I have this much population in locations with this RGO, I'd be totally happy with that. That'd be cool. Markets, meanwhile, we have Tabriz, Baghdad, Esfahan, Hormuz, Nishapur, Zaranj. This one would be Astrakhan. Our region has several markets: Tabriz, Baghdad, Esfahan, Hormuz, Nishapur, and Zaranj. It will make for regionally fragmented but integrated economies. That is good market access everywhere, but with regionally diverging economies. I suppose that would be kind of fine because the region is so rich, so you don't need to have one, you know, huge market because you have the resources available in each individual one. I suppose as you get more better at projecting control, you know, better road networks, better infrastructure, then these can probably be integrated, or delete one of the markets to unify two might work. But yeah, I think the only thing I'd say here is it is still not really showing very well the effects that rivers have on markets. For example, you really can't see the effects that the Tigris or Euphrates rivers have in the Baghdad market. So I'm leaning to believe that river code still isn't ready somewhat. But I hope I'm right on that. I hope we do get updates when rivers are ready. Population wise, meanwhile, we've got 630,000 in Ggen, 1.1 million in the Geleirids, though again they have vassals. They have the Eretnids that we saw in the previous Anatolia Dev Diary. I can't remember how many they were, but I'm not going to go look for them. Then we've got 1.8 million in the Chopinids. Really looks like the Gurgen are going to have their work cut out for them if they want to take control of the Ilkhanate. More regional populations, just a whole lot of numbers. 75,000 there. That is the one that is jumping out at me. Moving on, we got more populations here. The Geleirids are probably based out of here. I think that's where Baghdad... Oh no, Baghdad is right here. The 101,000. Lots of people there. Then in Persia, population-wise, there it is. And then moving on, this is where the Gurgen are. 53,000, 52,000. I don't have any higher ones that I can see. No. Total population of the region is around 9 million, taking into account the different areas they're showing off today. That's divided into 4.5 million in Iran, 2 million in Iraq, 1.5 million in the Caucasus, and around 1.5 million in Transoxania. That's all for today. Next Friday, they'll be taking a look at India in its entirety. Holy. Okay, that is going to be a beefy map, Dev Diary. Holy hell. We think it's the best way to do it, although they'll talk about more next week. Another change, but only for next week. The Dev Diary will be published at 10 a.m. instead of 3 p.m. Fair enough. I will be there. I will be there if I'm not busy, but I'm pretty sure I'll be there. That's awesome. That is awesome. Again, if we have I think it was on this one where we saw... Where was it that we saw a bunch of stuff about India? There it is. This is something we have already seen, so we'll be able to make a comparison between India from here and India in next week's Dev Diary. I'm definitely looking forward to that. There's also this population map that is already there, and I think the reason that they're doing it in one go is because if you want to do, we'll do northern India, you get like a square of northern India, and then you're cutting off this, which is the Delhi Sultanate, because that extends down here. And then it's like, next week we'll do the southern India, and we'll get the rest of the Delhi Sultanate, which, it doesn't work. Just doing the entire thing all in one go is a much cooler, much better idea, in my opinion. One thing we can actually show, just from looking at this map, 123 here in Baluchistan. I want to see what it compares to now. It's still 123. Still 123. What else we got? I'm now curious. This is interesting to me. Here, 699, 699. Okay, that didn't change. 520. Oh, we don't. Yeah, 520 there as well. Okay, so there's actually quite few things that have changed. 70 and 89. 70, 89. Yeah, these things have been in place for quite some time then. But anyway, that is the Persia region. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm a big fan of what I saw. I can't point out any obvious mistakes. I do think that it would be nice to have a little bit more granularity in the map in the Euphrates Tigris region. I think that would be quite a lot of fun, especially as it seems like the Geleirids are going to be the main players, the main I don't want to say protagonist, but they're going to be a huge player in the region as the preeminent power in the Ilkhanate IO. So seeing them with a little bit more provincial density here would, I think, be a good idea. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If you like what I do here, feel free to hit the subscribe button. It helps me out a ton. And I will see you in next Wednesday's Tinto Talks. Hopefully it will be a good one. Toodaloo.